be unto you. Assalamu alaikum. Very pleased to be back here again in the city of Pittsburg. It's been a long time, they tell me, 10 years ago. And I'm still recalling being a young man, a minister for my father, the late leader and teacher, all the life, Mohammed, and coming with him to Pittsburg. He made the speech, the public speech here, address here in Pittsburg. It was at the Syrian Mosque Shriners, the Mason of Shriners facility. And we indebted to them because when no one else would let us have nice places to accommodate our numbers, they did. So we are indebted to them for being our friends. And bad times, and I hope in good times. Religion of Islam is greatly misunderstood by not only by non-Muslims, but many Muslims do not understand as they should the religion, the true picture of the religion of Islam. I came from an effort. I've inherited my position with a great following because of my being the son of their teacher, their leader and teacher, my father, Mohammed, who passed in 1975, February of 1975. And we pray God forgive him for whatever his shortcomings were, and for his errors, and give him paradise, for his good work, for he did do many good works that we still benefit from today. We came from an idea that was intended to bring us here where we are today, to Islam, to true Islam. But as my father said, he was not teaching us religion at that time as much as he was trying to clean us up and get us to be responsible for ourselves and to accept responsibility for our neighborhood and our life in society. I know how someone can be very innocent, but accepting a very incorrect idea of what Islam is, because I myself came up in a group, among a group of people, and we had a very incorrect idea of what Islam is. Muslims of the world are not really caring too much to learn what their religion is. Islam is more than a religion of faith, although it's essentially a religion of faith, but it's much more than a religion of faith, like Christianity in the Bible. I must say, like the Bible says, faith without good works has no value. Islam insists that your proof of your faith be your good works in your own home, and your good works in your community life. And this is Islam. Excuse me a minute here. Yes. A scholar who was a friend of my father, he was an Egyptian scholar, and scholars of the University of Antioch in Egypt are really highly respected by the scholars of the world. And he was a teacher and graduated from Antioch and a scholar who served in the Gulf states of the Emirates. And I think he's still serving in the Gulf states. He's very well familiar with the world scene. And he recently was interviewed by a little magazine called The Living City, and Little City, the Living City magazine. And he answered a question that they asked him. And his answer, he said, is the great religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, had not been today, Jews, Christians, and Muslims would not have any problem living with one another. I do believe that, what he said. I do believe that. When I meet Christians and Jews in our meetings for dialogue and understanding and for cooperation for the good of all people, I feel very comfortable with them. Sometimes I forget that I'm talking to a Jew, a leader in religion who's a Jew or a Christian. I forget that. The conversation is going, and you start seeing each other as members of the same faith or believers in the same faith. So I know if we could be blessed to communicate the purity of our religion rather than the problem for our religion, if we could be blessed to communicate the purity of our religion, the world would not see us apart on the path to the good future of all of us. They would see us together on that path for the good future of all of us. God recognizes our differences. God says to us in our holy book, the sacred book of the Muslims, called the Quran, He says to us, and He will that we be one community, that is, that mankind be one community on earth, He would have made it so. He says, therefore, go as in competition or as in a race after all that is good, after all that is good. So this is the invitation for Muslims, as I see it, to join with all good people of the world. And it's not limited to Jews and Christians, but all good people of the world. To join all good people of the world in the effort to advance human society and the structures, the good structures of human society for the benefit of the whole family of mankind on this earth. I see that as an invitation to us to not to be alone in our efforts to make a contribution to the betterment of mankind, but to join with others who are doing the same work and who had that tradition, before we did. Those good people who were before us, we should come and we should join in, and we should think of ourselves as not being alone in our efforts to do good works for mankind, but we should think of ourselves as being with others who are doing the same good work, get to know them better, so we can understand one another better, so we will know how to make contributions together rather than separate, as separate efforts that are not caring about the efforts of others. We're doing the same thing. We're trying to have the same good life for all of us. You know, when you look at the Christian world, you see good and bad. You see trouble. You look at the Muslim world, you see good and bad. You see trouble. You look at the separate world, you see the same picture, good and bad, and a lot of trouble. So we are human beings, and we're subject to error. We're subject to lose our way, to lose even our good soul, the nature that God gave us originally when He created us. We're subject to lose that good nature to the world of problems and suffering. God says to us, we are a community. We are a community. You are, God says, you are of the best community, raised or evolved for the good of all people. This is what God says to us. And God says of our temple, for our unity and for the unity of mankind, the holy house that we make pilgrimage to. He said that that is the house Boni and it is older than Boni and that it is the most ancient or the first of the houses built for the good of all, or for the benefit of all people. A great scholar who passed away some years ago, well, some a decade or so ago, his name Maulana Maududi of Pakistan, well-known reviver of the faith of Islam in Pakistan. Once I was happened to be 1967, I believe it was, on the pilgrimage to this ancient house, this sacred house, and I learned that Maulana Maududi was there also making Hajj pilgrimage. And some people came from his camp. I was not a leader at the time. I was the son of Elijah Mohammed, and just visited making my Hajj with the Muslim Student Association, one of the sponsors for this occasion. I was making my Hajj with the Muslim Student Association of the United States and Canada. And our president at that time was Dr. Ahmad Sahar, who had visited my father with 21 students of the United States from different parts of the world. They came to ask my father, why is there so much difference between your Islam and what we know to be Islam? So anyway, on that Hajj, I received an invitation from his camp, from the camp of Maududi, the learned scholar Maududi, and revival. They came to me and they said, Brother Mohammed, Brother Mohammed, they called me, said, you invited Maulana Maududi would like you to come to his tent. So I went to his tent, and there I met him, and I was so almost in awe by his presence. I knew I was in his presence. I had read books by him, and I had been touched deeply by his writing. And you'd be surprised. The first book that I read by him was in my father's library. It was at home, my father's home, in his library. Anyway, I met him, and he said to the gathering there, he said, Islam is an idea that has as its goal the reform or reformation of the whole global community of mankind. Now, that's exactly what Islam is. Islam is revealed to become an influence, a light, and a guidance for the reformation of the global community, for reforming the whole community of mankind on this earth. But it's not alone in that, I understand Christianity to be committed to the same task. Sometimes we lose sight of just what God assigned to us as a responsibility, as a duty. Many of us in these religions, we lose sight of that. But if you go back and search the scripture and you listen to your preachers, your leaders in your faith, closely, you will come to the conclusion too that these religions are not just for people or one nation or one color. These religions are for all people, for the whole of mankind. And these religions have been civilizing the world, although we charge these religions with a lot of trouble that we have in the world. And I will admit that religion has made a lot of trouble for African Americans. I'm one of the victims of some of the trouble that religions have made for African American people. But when you look at the work, all of the works, look at the history of the works of these great religious communities, we see that these religions have contributed more than any other ideology. These religions have contributed to the unifying and the progress of man as a family on this earth. We look at the great achievements even in the material force. When you look at the material world, we see that it has been these religions, though using the great minds and skills of many others outside of these religions have been in the forefront of the struggle to bring material progress to mankind as well. And I do believe that it's a proof It's a modern day proof, a great sign from God, that God is with those who are religious. God is with those who are believing in Him, and that He reveals guidance for man, that He communicates guidance from man to man. The communist world, I know a lot about the communist idea. I studied it at a time when I was confused and wondering what is the truth, you know. I studied communist ideas, and I believe that the reason why communism didn't win seems like capitalism has won. Communism didn't win because it did not respect God as Christians respect God, as these capitalists respect God in their churches. And I'm also believing that communism failed to capture the mind of the religious people, of the church, of the mosque. I met the leader of several million Muslims in Russia, and he told me that they had to go underground with their faith. They couldn't practice it in the open. He said, but they survived 70 years of communist rule or domination. As soon as they were permitted to be free, then all of a sudden the mosques became alive. The mosques, the massages, the mosques came to life, and the people became visible to show that they hadn't conquered those people. They did not conquer those people. They did not turn them back from their faith. They were just waiting for an opportunity to practice their religion in the open. Man and community. You know, we say, my home, my home. And so we also say, my hometown. And we also say, my homeland. And we also say, earth is the home of the family of man. So home, God with just a man, his wife, and his immediate family, his children, immediate family. Then home becomes the neighborhood. Home becomes the town. Home becomes the state. Home becomes the nation. Home becomes the whole world. And to me, that natural movement is exactly what God has planned when He created man. And we are going to become one home, whether we like it or not. We're going to have to want the whole world to be home for all of us. And, you know, no member of the family like to see one family member, one child, one son, or one daughter excluded from the benefits of the home. The whole family will maybe come apart, fight each other, come apart, just to save the dignity or the rights of one member to be in that home family and enjoy that home with the other members. So the whole world is becoming like that. It's going to be that. The whole world is going to become our home. And this is what I perceive Islam to want. This is what I perceive Christianity and the great religions to want. To influence man's heart and influence man's reasoning, his mind, so that he comes to realize that he was made from one origin, and you're going to have one destiny, and that destiny is to be one family again. That's the destiny. You come from one origin, and you have to come to be one family again. What is Islam? When Mohammed the Prophet was asked that question, he gave this quick, easy answer. He said, Islam is to believe in God. Islam is to pray. Islam is to give in charity. Islam is to fast. And we mean by fast, and Islam is the fast the month of Ramadan, a whole month. And he said, and Islam is to visit the house. That's all. He didn't say visit make pilgrimage. He said visit the mosque. Well, he did say when you visit the house, that is pilgrimage. He said to make pilgrimage or to visit the house in Mecca. And that was the answer he gave when he was asked, what is Islam? And we know that these five essentials have very far-reaching implications and applications. We are to practice this religion, and this is where we are distinguished. We're not distinguished by our articles of faith, because Christians say they believe the same. Christians say they believe in God. They believe in revelation. They believe in the books revealed. They believe in the prophets and the messengers. They believe in the resurrection after the death. They believe in the Qadr of God, the Qadr that God in creating the world. He's the one that we owe for having the potential to do good and having the potential to do harm. The power or potential to do harm or good is from God. So these beliefs, we share them in common with other people. They're not just ours. But where do we have our distinct pictures? We have our distinct picture in our practices, in the practice of Shahada. Because Shahada for us, to witness that there is one God, it must be a conscious thing, and it must affect our whole life. If I devote myself to any interest, it can be my job, it can be an idol that I believe has power, but it can be my job, it can be myself, it can be my child, it can be my wife, or something that I love. It can even be my automobile. If I give it priority over my obligation to God, and I care more about it, and I care about fulfilling my obligations to God, that car, or that wife, or that child, or that interest becomes my God, and that's shirk in Islam. That becomes the shirk for us in Islam. So you're worshiping a false God. If you devote yourself to even to an ideology, and that ideology becomes more important for you than your obedience to Allah, following His guidance in your book, the Quran, the book of Muslims, the Quran, then that ideology has become your God, and that's shirk. You're making a God of God. This is Islam. I think that's the same thinking among the scholars of Christianity and Judaism. I think that's the same thinking. That your false worship is not limited to ancient statues and things that were made, but your false worship is where you put your heart and your mind, and when you devote all of your energy. If it's not God, then that became your God, that has become your God, and that's false worship. Yes, so these 5 simple answers that Muhammad gave have far-reaching, I said, implication and application. For example, charity. He said to give in charity, obligations to give in charity. But charity is a whole institution in Islam. Charity is a way of protecting society, protecting the weak in the society, protecting orphans, protecting widows, protecting giving help to the sick, giving help. Christian love is very much like Islam, charity in Islam. What I learned Christian love to be in Christianity or in the Bible, I see it resembling very much what is in Islam. I have read something in the Bible, and the prophet was saying what his fast is. And when he explained what his fast was, his obligation to care about the people who hunger and the sick. When he got to tell him what his fast was, I said, wow, I'm reading the Bible, but this sounds very much like what zakat, how zakat is to be distributed, and why we have zakat as an institution, not just as a volunteer thing, but it's an institution. It's something we have to do. And when we look at fasting, the Prophet said, Muhammad, peace be on him, he said fasting when he was describing what Islam is. But as the sensitive imams and the good teachers of Islam, they tell us that we fast not only to obey that order, but fasting awakens in us a sense of how others, awareness, of how others is suffering, and they can't afford to get food when they're hungry. We're still in the pain of hunger, but we are doing it because we want to obey God. It's not because we don't have money to buy some food. But it awakens in us the awareness that there are people who don't have the money to buy food in their home. So after we fast, we are more sympathetic to those who are suffering and hungry and the poor. And our charity becomes very large at the end of the month of fasting, very large. We are looking for people to feed. We're looking for hungry people who can't afford a good meal. And not only are we doing this voluntarily, but we're doing this also as an obligation, especially those who miss some days. Because if you miss some days, you can either make up those days by fasting in another month, And who want to fast by themselves? It's very difficult. You want to fast with the spirit of the people. You want to fast when the whole spirit of the community is with you. It's hard to fast by yourself. So God has obligated us if we fail to omit the day of fast, that we feed at least a person, 1/4 person, the equivalent of what we would have, the meal that we would have had that day. So it's not easy to fast and not also share what we have with the suffering masses or with the suffering people. This is Islam. Islam is also a religion of beauty. Mohammed the Prophet, prayers and peace be on him. I'm saying the things that I think we're missing. All of the trouble in the world makes us miss the beautiful things. The trouble in the world clouds our mind and clouds our view, and we can't see the purity of Islam. So I'm hoping to mention these things, that killing and maiming people and murder, etc., clouds the mind and the eye and prevents us from seeing. So religion is beautiful, and religious life should be beautiful, and religious believers, adherents, we should love beauty. Muhammad the Prophet said, God is beauty and loves beauty. God is beauty and he loves beauty. And you'll find among the Muslims lovers of beauty, lovers of this beautiful nature. And some of our great philosophers, I'm not going to name any that right now, a couple come to my mind right away. They have such beautiful poetry, such beautiful lines of philosophy and poetry, all in this one beautiful line, showing that their religion for them, their Islam, has sensitized them to appreciate beauty, to want to see life beautiful, and to want to see God in his beauty, not in his wrath. I don't know why people want to see God in his wrath. I only want to see God in his beauty. I hope I never have to see him in his wrath. We also have that fifth pillar we call Hajj, but it has a message too for the world, for our community and for the world. What is this message? The learned in this religion, they say that fifth pillar is the pillar of the unity of Muslims, regardless to national origin, color, or anything else, just based upon faith. Faith in one God, one humanity. And that brings us to a term called Tawheed, oneness. Tawheed. Tawheed starts with the oneness of God, then it proceeds to go on to his work, to God's work, that God's work is also unified or unity, that matter itself is one system, the system of matter is one, and it goes on to say that human beings, human family is one family, and our purpose should be one, and that is to please our Maker, to satisfy our Maker. And God wants us to be happy. God doesn't want us to be miserable and sad. God wants us to have joy. God says that he created us, not directly but indirectly, even directly, that he created us for joy. It says, God says, also pleasing yourself and pleasing your Maker, return to your Lord, enter you among my servants, enter you my paradise. So what is God saying with these words from Quran? God is saying that you want heaven, you want to see the hereafter, you want the hereafter, you want to be in the hereafter in paradise. God is saying, then satisfy the good urgings in your own soul to be a good person. And if you do that, you will be pleased with what you're looking at when you're looking at yourself. And pleasing yourself, you'll be pleasing before God. God has created us with a sensitivity inside here, and it knows when we are not looking right and when we're not behaving right. If we will stop closing our ears to the urgings in our own soul and listen to them, we will become a beautiful soul and a beautiful person in our behavior and our conduct, And when we do that, when we become beautiful, satisfying what God has put into our soul, we will also be at the same time beautiful before God or pleasing to God. This is what God is telling us. And Mohammed said, whoever has seen himself has seen his Lord. Isn't that wonderful? Whoever has seen himself has seen his Lord. What does it mean? If you have seen yourself that you are not God, that you didn't create this world, that you are dependent, you can't live alone, you can't exist by yourself, you are dependent and you need help from others. When you finally discover that all the help that you can get from your friends is owing to God first, creating the world, so we all would be here and have the benefits we enjoy. So it takes you ultimately to accept that God is the greatest benefactor, that you owe your existence and everything to God. So discovering yourself puts you on the path to see God. When you see yourself, you see God. When you see your dependency, when you see your helplessness, then you see God. But man wants to close his eyes to his own dependency and think himself to be independent. How was it put? I'm trying to remember how it is put there. Yes. Does man think that he will be left alone to do whatever he pleases? No. Man will not be left alone to do whatever he pleases. So if we just get rid of our big-headedness, the shaitan, you know the picture of Satan in Islam? The shaitan begins with a creature, wanting to tower over everybody else. He wants to put his head in the sky and look down on everybody else. Well, all of us have a weakness in our ego to want to do that. If we can deal with that, confront that, and defeat it, well, I will be in pretty good shape. I do believe. I'm going to conclude this by saying, Islam is not a religion. We can live on an island away from the rest of the world. Islam is a religion that has to be lived in community, and a religion that has to accept that the community of mankind is the community of our interests. Our interests cannot stop at the boundaries of an Islamic society or the Islamic community. We must extend our interests and our sensitivity to the boundaries of the whole world of mankind. Thank you. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.
I always get a chance to ask good questions to you. Mohammed is my name.
Yes.
My question is this here. Seeing that our history, the history of African American Muslims, more than 3 to 5 million Muslims were brought here as slaves. Seeing that Islam among our people, we participated in the growth of the United States. Some of our ancestors even fought to help build the United States. Seeing that Islam has participated in the reforming of people who the society had forgotten about, inmates, drug dealers. Do you think that the African American Muslims now deserve the same rights that the Israeli state had in Israel, that we have to accept the existence of Israel, that perhaps the United States or the West may have to accept, based upon justice, moral justice, the existence of some form of Ishmael, the rights of some form of autonomy or sovereignty for Muslims in the United States?
Yes. Yes. I believe that this society owes it to us to see that nothing is in our way of progress, to make sure that nothing is done unfair to us, that we be accorded the same rights that all other citizens are accorded in this land, to work out their future and to grow spiritually humanly, economically, rationally, in every respect, as to the limit of our possibilities that God will bless us with. That they should open the country to us, come in and compete even, to influence the future of this country, the future of the country. I'd like to see more of us be blessed by God. I would like to see more of us think of ourselves as being free to conceive America in even a more beautiful picture than we conceive it today. Someone's going to do that. Someone's doing that all the time. So don't be satisfied with America the way she is now. Let us understand that the great idea that founding fathers left with us encourages all of us to contribute our best, and what we see as not being good enough, get rid of it and make something better, or at least put something better beside it so people will have another choice. So I'm for accepting the responsibility to make our country even better. And I think that's what all Americans, especially white Americans, owe to African Americans.
A beer.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Imam. Brother Imam, my question is for the Muslim families that are raising their children, or Muslim children that are born into Muslim homes. Is there a time that the children should take the Shahada? The children in the home. Is there a
Yes, I understand. No, not in a formal way. Not in a formal way. But the parents should be teaching Shahada to the children. Teach both parts of the Shahada. Shahada comes in two parts. Shahada thing. To witness that there is but one God, the creator of everything, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, highly glorified is He, and to witness that Muhammad, to whom the Quran was revealed, is His servant and His messenger, and a mercy to all the world. In other words, we see Muhammad as the world leader, not just leader for Muslims. Muhammad is the world leader. He's a leader for all the human family. And He's a mercy to all the human family, to all the world, to mankind. So we should be making sure that our children understand that Shahada. They don't have to take any form of Shahada because they're being raised as Muslims. They're born into Muslim families. But we should make sure that they know and understand what Shahada is, what it is to witness that there is one God and Muhammad is His servant, His messenger. Prayer and peace be on Him.
Thank you, brother.
Are you going to open a masjid?
Are we going to open a masjid? I hope I live to see you open one. That's what I want. I want to live to see you open.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
As being a African-American Muslim, how do we connect and identify with all of the other African-Americans that are not Muslim in this country to fight for what the other brother just talked about as far as the oneness? Because I know a lot of non-Muslims may not identify, non-African-American Muslims may not identify with the Muslims to be on the same page. So how do we connect with those individuals to going forward?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to satisfy your question, but I just have to answer it the way my soul is trying to answer it. Pleading that I answer it. We cannot separate ourselves from other African Americans. No way. Our life is the same. History has made our souls one soul. One soul. And that's what makes a people one people, when their soul becomes one soul. And their soul becomes one soul because their souls have been affected by the same thing and have been formed by the same thing. And our souls have been affected by slavery. Our souls have been affected by bad treatment in this country. Our souls have been affected by a sense of loneliness, not having anybody to turn to but God. So we have been made one powerful soul as a people. So we have a strong soul identity. And that soul identity is pleading for us to put it into a body. That body is our community structure. So we should join the effort of all African Americans to build up our neighborhoods and have good community structures. We are together. We can't separate.
Presently, our country is at war in Iraq, and of course, it's on the minds and on the hearts of all the Muslims as well as other people in the world. And I'd like to have a comment, please.
You like to meet me?
Yes, on the war.
Yes.
And not only the war.
You want me to express my feelings?
Yes, about the war and about how the war is affecting Muslims psychologically.
I see. Yes, Muslims around the world are being affected psychologically. You can't help but see when we know the bad conditions for the children and families of Iraq even before invasion, and more misery and more suffering is now there. All of us are affected, psychologically, emotionally, and in every other way. But at the same time, someone asked on a program, TV program, they asked the question, what do we think Mohammed would do as a leader if he was present in the world today? We should ask ourselves that question. Would Muhammad the Prophet approve of the Iraqi army leaders using civilians to embarrass America by putting those civilians in front of military installations so that when America fires, America be killing those civilians? What does Muhammad have to say about that? So it's very difficult. I prayed and hope, I prayed hard, and I hope that our country would not go again to Iraq and bomb Iraq. That was my prayer. But now that we're at war, my hope is that the mission succeeds with the smallest number of casualties, especially to innocent people and to our soldiers. That's my prayer. But I hope the mission will be successful. I hope Saddam and his supporters will be extricated, taken out of there, and removed. That's my hope. I have been informed 10 years ago about Saddam, and I studied the Ba'ath Party, the political party of Iraq, when I was a young man, in my mid-20s and a little older. And I wondered why would an Islamic State have an idea that came from a foreigner, not from a Muslim. A political idea that came not from a Muslim, but from a foreigner, the Ba'ath Party. So I believe, like Dr. Ibrahim Izzuddin, who said that political forces have instigated trouble for religion. And I believe that the political idea in Iraq has been instigated and is put there to divide Muslims and to use Iraq against itself and against Muslims. I believe there's a great conspiracy that has been going on for 2,000 years. And we are seeing that conspiracy come more and more to the forefront. I believe the embarrassment of the Catholic Church, all of the embarrassing things that we are hearing about the priests and their corruption with the boys in the church. I mean, all of this, it wouldn't be that big, it wouldn't be magnified that big, it wouldn't be that big, it wouldn't come out in the public that big like that if it was instigated by a force, an element that you can't say is Jewish, you can't say is Islamic, you can't say is Christian. It's an element that takes advantage of all of us. that uses all of it. And that element is the living force of Satan, Shaitan himself, the devil himself. The devil is not a mystery or superstition. The devil is real. That's what I mean. So what is my answer? Pray that lives be spared, that the good get the victory and the bad lose. That's what you pray.
Yes, I have two questions. You had mentioned that if Muslims and Jews be blessed to see the spirit of our religion, that we could live.
That Jews and
If like Jews, Muslims and Christians, to be allowed to see the purity of our religion, we can live better together.
yes, yes.
And also be
I'm speaking from my own experience. I studied the Bible. I used to reject the Bible. But my mind told me, so how can you talk to Christians and about Islam when you don't understand what they believe in? So my mind told me, as a leader, I was obligated to study the Bible. So I did. And when I studied the Bible, I pledged to myself that I would not question the Bible, that I would read it and not have any differences with it, but just read it, hear it. Like you say, hear me out first, you know? Well, that's what I said. And patiently. I would do it patiently without looking for some fault in it. That's why I pledged to myself that I would do this. Not look for any fault and just read it. And I did. And then I said the second time, but at the same time I pledged to myself that after I do that first reading, then the second reading I was going to nitpick. I was going to examine it. I was going to pick things apart and examine it. I did it. And I came to the conclusion that there's a continuous line of purity going from Genesis, the first words of Genesis, to the last words of Revelation, that the Bible has its special purity. It's shrouded in secrecy, but it's also expressed. That's what that's the conclusion I came to. So that's why I am pledged myself to be a friend of the church, the Christian people, and I'm your brother, I'm your friend. Any Christians here, I want you to know, I'm your brother in God, your brother in humanity, and I'm your friend. And we're going to work together to make America a better America.
The second question, that you kind of led into my second question. When we say the Pledge of Allegiance,
do we take a pledge of allegiance? Do we take a pledge?
well, whenever that we say the words of allegiance,
Mm-hmm.
one point says one nation under God.
Yes.
And then it reminds me in the Quran where it says, in a different way, fight them until all of them come under God.
Well, it doesn't exactly say that. It says fight them until religion, until there's no more persecution. Fight them until there's no more persecution and religion is free for God. Right.
So the words in the Pledge of Allegiance, you comment on those words for us, please? If you comment on the words of the Pledge of Allegiance on the report where it says one nation under God.
Yes. Yes. I had a teacher when I was young, along with the other students in our school, called the high school of the University of Islam in Chicago, established under the leadership of my father. And he had hired Jamil Diab, who's Dr. Jamil Diab now. At that time, he was in the real estate business. But since then, he headed the Stampede Mosque Masjid, and he got his PhD years ago. But anyway, he was teaching a class once, and he said to us, to our class, he said, you know that the Constitution of the United States, the way it is introduced, the statement of one nation under God, that is not in conflict with Islam. I really see that. I wish more Muslim heads of state could write into their constitution that this nation pledges allegiance witnessing that all of its citizens are entitled to certain rights that they have inherited by virtue of their creation, the creation that God made. And this is one nation under God, and we owe something to our Creator. I wish that we could read that in some of the political languages of the nations of Islam. You know, I'm sure there's probably in some of them, but we don't get that information. I'm sure it's left out of many political ideologies, statements, or constitutions of Islamic nations. I believe that's left out. So in a sense, I find a stronger awareness of our creation as a creation of God, and our rights as God-given rights that the state has to recognize. I find that a stronger witness to that in the statement of our Constitution, or the preamble to our Constitution, than I find in ideologies of the Muslim world. So in a sense, what I'm saying here, in a real degree, I feel more comfortable with our Constitution than I do with many constitutions of the Muslim world. That's true. But I know the big Satan is here, right? Yeah, I have to agree with you. The big Satan is here. This peculiar society we have that gives us freedom and gives us a beautiful freedom, it also tells Satan, we'll let you do your business too. So he's conducting his business too. We have to prove to him that God and righteousness is stronger than the devil and evil. I don't mind it. I'm ready to keep fighting.
My question is, with the previous brothers talking about African Muslims being united and such, is I think the biggest problem in maybe the world that I feel, in my opinion, maybe if you can comment on this is the disunity between all Muslims around the world. Like, it seems that the Muslims in America have their own set of ummah, and Muslims in the Middle East have their own ummah, and the Pakistanis have their own ummah, and it just seems like that if we would strengthen our bond together as all Muslims, even if we are the smaller majority between the Christians and the Muslims, that we could get schools all around the nations and get, like examples of Iraq, with Muslims together could bond and remove regimes that are non-Muslims, and instead of depending on others to help ourselves out, that we need to help, Muslims together need to help ourselves out instead of depending on others. That maybe, in the case of it, just seems like I don't know where we can find this unity between all the Muslims around the world instead of just our Muslims in our backyard. And I don't know, I thought maybe you could just comment on that if I'm wrong or...
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. I am studying the Quran and not really looking for, God says we are one brotherhood, that we are brothers, Islam. All Muslims are Islam. I mean, all Muslims are one family, brothers and sisters. And to me, that's enough. If God said that, we should try to be that. We should try to conform to that. That seems to be enough. But in reading the Quran, I had to stop once. I had read it many times, but I stopped once on the words of God in the Quran that says, to each is a goal toward which you're being turned. Therefore, all of you turn your faces toward this sacred house. That's the message in the Haram, the sacred message in the Mecca, where we go to make pilgrimage. Turn your faces toward this house message, and wherever you are, God promises He will bring us all together. So the key for our keeping our unity and having God's help to stay united is that we respect our different individual aspirations and interests. We're entitled to those. but make more important our one central interest, one central focus and interest, and that is to be one human family in obedience to God, under God. But he said, so turn your faces toward this message. He's talking, God is bringing into our focus or into our mind the Kaaba, which is a house. It's called home, a house, a day, home, a house. But it's not a home for us separately. It's not a home for blacks. It's not a home for whites or Asians or whatever. It's a home for all human beings. So God is saying that if we remain conscious of our human identity as one human family and our obligation to Him, we'll be saved. Our unity will be protected. Our unity will be preserved. And though no matter how far we're scattered on this earth or how much we differ with one another, ethnically, culturally, whatever, as long as we hold that before us, we can be united. What we need to unite Muslims all over the world is to obey what God is asking us to do. We need to become more humanly sensitive. But why we don't want to do that? Our scholars in Islam, they are so caught up into an intellectual competition with the West. They're so caught up into a religious competition with the West that they can't see and feel this beautiful help that God has offered us so plainly in our book, the Quran. I think that's what we need. But also, I'll tell you, like I told that young man who asked me, was I going to open a message here? I hope that God will bless you to be our leader in the future, brother. We need your help.
I just want to say we're going to have 4 more questions. The gentleman over there, the sister right here, and these 2 brothers. And after that, then we can wrap up.
Yes.
The question I had is, today, racism is involved. It's not like it was back in the 60s where blacks had to drink out of one water fountain and whites had to drink out of another water fountain. It's hidden now. It's more evolved to include Islam as well, where people like us, first generation Pakistanis or Arab Americans who come here are made to feel bad about ourselves, made to feel bad about being Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And we suffer. We're suffering what I think not as bad as what our African American brothers had suffered early when they came here, but we're going through something like that now. And my question is, with the war going on and with all this stuff going on with Islam, what can we do as a new generation to prepare us to be leaders, to help us fight through this, and how to resolve matters like this that come up in the future?
Thank you. We should follow the example of our Prophet Muhammad. Muhammad the Prophet, prayers and peace be on him, he formed a circle of friends, a group of friends and companions who were totally committed to see the mission of Muhammad be a success. And they were not all Saudis or Arabs like the Prophet was. He had others. And Bilal was one. He was black. Habashi from Africa. We should form, I don't want to say intelligentsia, but that's the first word that comes to my mind now, because fools can't compete in this one with the wise. We should form an intelligentsia. And that intelligentsia, that group, should be firmly committed to obey God and His messenger. And the proof of that should be their expressed love for God and love for the messenger, Muhammad, the model human being, for all of us. And they should, upon that, they should then take up the responsibility to have jihad. But this jihad should not be with material weapons. I think the time's out for that kind of jihad. I think human being has advanced so far that that kind of jihad is just savagery, and we don't like it. The soul doesn't like it anymore. The jihad we need is jihad with the pen. Mohammed says the ink of the scholar is more precious than the blood of the martyr. We need jihad with the pen, and we need these people to be the best of our people, and we should include some females in that intelligence. And I think we can be very effective in beating Satan. God says, and fight the schemes of Satan. Racism is one of the schemes of Satan.
My name is Sarah Saddam, and I'm a junior here at Pitt, and I'd just like to start off by saying that I'm honored that you were able to take time out of your busy schedule to be here and enlighten us with your knowledge today. My question is directly related to the brother's question on the war on Iraq, and I just want to say that while we're here in it's a devastating time for our Muslim brothers in Iraq, it's also a very enlightening time for the people here in America, because the knowledge of Islam has spread dramatically in this period, and we have Christians and we have Jews and we have Americans joined together under one cause to sort of make America a better place. To make America a better place, and that this war, a lot of people aren't agreeing with this war, and they're marching in the street fighting for that cause. And what I don't see is a lot of Muslims fighting for that same cause. In fact, what I realized is a lot of my Muslim friends are a lot more apathetic and ignorant about the war and the situation that's going on there than my American friends. And I don't think we're taking advantage of the time as much as we should be to sort of spread knowledge on the war and on our causes, and to gain more sympathy from Muslims here in America. So I was wondering what we should be doing right now to spread the knowledge and spread the knowledge for our causes.
Yes, thank you. America is a country where you're free to express yourself and you're free to advance your cause. But if you don't do it, then you lose. Because others don't like your cause. They're working to see that your cause is never advanced. Your cause is never advanced. So if we Muslims don't learn the nature of this society, the political nature of this society, and take advantage of our freedom to express ourselves and to get involved, to protest, to let America, let our leaders know how we feel about things, and if we don't join forces with others who against the same thing we against, or they sympathize, at least sympathize with our interests or with our causes, we should have plans to get with them. And you don't have to come in with your flag, come in under their flag, join their group, come in under their flag. Sometimes you have to come in out with your flag too, let the leaders know that you are against it and identify yourself. But sometimes don't worry about identifying yourself. If you know they're doing something good, it's going to be good for Americans, it's going to be good for you too, join them. That's about as much as I can say, sister. But we need leaders. Muhammad, the Quran and Muhammad, Allah's word and Muhammad urges us to form leadership. We need leaders. And the Prophet told us that if we have a task or assignment and it's requires no more than 3 persons, make one of them responsible for the leadership of that project. So we need leaders, and I hope that we will see more sisters, more males, and more females become leaders in the big interest, for the big interest.
Imam, you were talking about how Muslims and Christians and Jews should learn how to live together. When I am a Muslim, I have so much love for Quran, Hadith, Muhammad, and Allah. I meet a Christian guy that has so much love for his own belief. And I raise love for him, I care about him. And out of this love, show him the right religion, which is, I believe, is Islam. And he does the same way too. He does the same too when he shows me Christianity, and he believes this is the right religion.
I see.
And my question here, then we'll both be pushy about it. So we fail to live together as Christian and Muslim, and then I feel if I start backing off and being just a normal guy, I feel that I'm failing the test that God has given me. So what is your opinion about the situation?
Yes. Well, I don't know if everybody can do what I do. I'm condemning the law for being too soft, for being a guy that's too goody, too nice, you know. But I just tell you my nature, and I believe God accepts my nature. My nature is when I find a Christian comfortable with his religion, and his character is good, his behavior is good, I don't want to make him uncomfortable. He'll have to invite me to make him uncomfortable. That's what fellow things do. And I will be struggling for the best way to keep him comfortable while I'm telling him something that may change his ideas or may make him know that I don't think he's correct in some of his ideas. It's difficult that way. You know, we should remember history too. Malaysia, Indonesia, these are good Muslims, have a great population of Muslims and good Muslims. And they were converted not by dawah or preaching. They were converted by the good example of Muslim businessmen who came to their countries to do business. So a lot of times the best propagation or the best invitation to Islam is our own good human example. I've been pretty successful with this issue of mine. My wife was a Catholic, and I didn't tell her anything. My wife Shirley was a Catholic, and I didn't tell her about the Nation of Islam and religion, nothing like that. She knew I was son of Elijah Muhammad. She knew about it. But I would talk the language that was common for both of us. And in talking the language that was common for both of us, she finally, because I was in the Nation of Islam, she finally joined too. But she never had thought like we were taught to think. She thought like a universal Muslim, you know. She thought like a universal Muslim, not like the Nation of Islam influenced us to think. And she didn't have any problem making the change with us. When I brought in the change for the Nation of Islam, she had no problem. In fact, she felt free because she already had that thinking already. She had that thinking already. And I never tried to convert her at all. I just tried to be a good, rational, sensitive human being. And she loved it. And she saw me as a product of Islam. She loved Islam. I think we can do more work for Islam by just being good products of Islam ourselves.
First, I'm happy and grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give me the pleasure of being here and listening to your talks. I've always heard about Imam, and alhamdulillah, now I've heard you physically. I have a question in my mind because one of the problems we have is promoting activism. Because currently we have people like Daniel Pike, for instance. Yesterday, President Bush hired Daniel Pike for one of the think tanks for peace and justice. And a person like Daniel Pike who says that American Muslims should not be allowed to vote, every single American Muslim should be subject to wiretaps and surveillance, and he is being hired as a think tank by the government for peace. So what's happened these days, there are people like Steve Emerson, Jerry Falwell, they have a lot of ears with the White House. And at the same time, you don't have enough ears from our side who can counter this. The same thing is happening locally in Pittsburgh. There are groups who are coming, who have special interests. Daniel Pipes was invited in Pittsburgh to talk about his expertise. So activism, as you said, Iman, that if we don't speak for our cause, there are others who are talking against us. How can we promote activism? How can we get people involved? Because this is a serious issue we're having. Civil rights, police issues, even internal education. There are not enough people who are coming up front to get involved. So what can we do?
We have to, like I say, we have to bring together people of like mind and similar good human sensitivity. We have to bring them together and bring the qualified ones together, and they have to have organizations, they have to have organized effort and leaders, good leaders, and take full advantage of our freedom and rights like all other citizens are doing in this country. We have to do that. But let me tell you something that I think you might be aware of. The government leaders, they have their own strategy. They have their own strategy. And President Bush, he wants someone to fulfill that job, but he wants to have that person accepted. So maybe that guy is not against Muslims. Maybe he just got on the record of being against Muslims so he can get in that position. So don't think that every guy that looks bad is really bad. That's the way politics is, you know. I'm not saying that he's good, but I'm saying it's a possibility that that guy that looks to be right now to be the enemy of Muslims, when he gets in there, he might be the friend of Muslims. We don't know. But let's see. You know, we like most British Christians, they watch what's happening. I mean, political, vote conscious Christians. They're conscious of the power of vote. And they have their private interests, or their interests, their community interests, or whatever. They watch what is happening, and they make a note of all these things. Sometimes they feel they have to come out strongly against something. But even if they don't come out strongly against it, they say, okay, this guy he got this mark against it. They report it. And when the time comes to vote against it, they have all the history. They have all the history. And they use this bad history against the candidate to see that he's not elected. So, you know, I didn't vote for President Bush. I voted for the other fellow. He lost. Would you believe I had a big Saudi friend, big one. He never gave me a dime, but he's a big Saudi friend. Would you believe that he was pressing me to vote for Bush? He said, isn't this just the tradition of your people to vote this way, Democratic? Are you really using your sisters, or is this just habit? That's what he told me. I know he's crying at home now. So let's be ready next time around, buddy.
Just a note, I'm also from Saudi Arabia, I'm just trying.
Thank you very much.
All right, we want to thank the Imam for coming. So we want to give him a standing ovation.